of the European Union, and I want to talk to you about the European Union at some length. But before we do that, I just want to keep going with this idea about Lukashenko and his achievements or not, as the case may be. You and the opposition have also said that he has run the economy into the ground, that the economy is dysfunctional.
It's dysfunctional.
Well, let's look at the facts. He's just, as I understand it, signed a major deal with the Chinese government, which promises $15 billion of credit and investment from Beijing, a figure that dwarfs previous support that Belarus has had from the IMF. And Lukashenko argues that this is going to be transformative for Belarus. He's looking in the right direction, isn't he, given the way the world economy is working?
You know, I will believe it when I see it, because whenever he goes to, for example, United Arab Emirates or to Iran or to Venezuela, he always claims, and his people claim, that they brought back billions of dollars. Then everybody forgets about it. We don't have any press to control these statements. So I think that he is now in a very difficult situation, and he'll be bluffing.
But you can't deny the reality of privatizations, for example. You know, you talk about the command economy and Lukashenko being a product of the bad old Soviet times, but the fact is, this year alone, he's promised to privatize 150 state enterprises.
Again, it's promises.
Yeah, but we've seen privatizations in various aspects of your economy. We have already seen privatization. Indeed, you get upset because so many of them have handed power to Russian companies, but the fact is, it is privatization.
It's not the matter of handing power to Russian companies or to any companies. It's, the problem is it's not transparent, it's not controlled. And we don't know how it is being done, whether it's being done at all.
Economist Yaroslav Romanchuk, who's actually an opposition figure himself, he says the fact is that somebody like you, there is no way on earth that you could actually get the 100,000 signatures that are necessary to get your name on the next presidential ballot paper. He says you don't have that kind of network, that organization, or indeed that basic support.
No, I don't know whether you got this quotation, but it's possible. It's been done before. And I see from the response of the people, I'm visiting different places, touring the country, that the dynamic is in favor of the new name of the opposition figure, of the person who is offering to the people the alternative to Lukashenko.
Let's talk more strategic picture, less about the politics of the internal situation. Russia is vital to Belarus.
Yep.
For a time, it seemed as though the Lukashenko intention was to work towards a union, a full state union with Russia. That's now been put on the back burner, and relations between Lukashenko and Moscow are poor. What do you believe is Russia's intention toward Belarus now?
I think that they are very disappointed, to say it mildly, with Lukashenko, because he doesn't deliver, he doesn't keep his promises. I'm not commenting on these promises and on obligations that he took before Russia. But I think that the way that he cheated them so long, and that they spent, according to our experts, again, $37.5 billion over the 6 years for subsidies, for cheap oil and gas, to subsidize Lukashenko and to really support his regime, and it yielded no result. It ended into the real war between Lukashenko and Kremlin. I think that they're thinking differently now.
Perhaps that's the reason that you personally have gone out of your way to cozy up to Moscow. Is that why you're doing it? Because
I'm saying what I always said, you know. Our strategic priority is European Union, and our strategic partner will always be Russia.
Yeah, I mean, this is what you were quoted as saying in Newsweek magazine not so long ago. You said that you would be ready to embrace Russian help if it comes from the right people.
So I was misquoted. I would never say the word embrace. I said I'm ready to seriously negotiate with Russia on any problem they have, take into account their national interests, as long as Belarusian national interests are taken into account.
You want the Russians, to put it bluntly, you want Moscow to give you help in your effort to change the regime in Minsk?
I want Moscow to open their eyes and to see that they had nothing from supporting this regime, and that this regime really hampers the process in the whole region. For Russia also, because they cannot get predictability in Belarus for their oil and gas transit. for nothing.
And to get this Russian help, let's leave aside the word embrace, but to get Russian help to do what you believe to be right, what are you prepared to give Moscow? For example, Moscow wants the Belarus government to recognize the independence of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. Are you prepared to do that?
No, but I will also not recognize Kosovo. It's simply impossible. It's a precedent that will not be in line with our national interests.
And what about making sure that Russia gets its way when it comes to pipelines, oil and gas deals, and the right sort of deal with the Belarus government of the future when it comes to the energy industry? Are you prepared to bend over backwards to help Moscow?
I prepare to seriously negotiate with Moscow, because what's going on today, when they're bypassing Belarus, it's not in our national interest.
So to be clear, when you use this slogan about a European Belarus, are you once and for all putting an end to the long-term prospect of a Belarusian union with Russia?
It never existed, you know.
Well, yes, it did exist. There was the states' union idea that for a start, we saw the passport and the customs integrated, and the idea was that over time, if the two peoples wanted it, you would just sort of get together.
It was existed on the paper, and
so that's over, as far as you're concerned. Belarus in the future will not be going down that track.
No, I think it's in the interest of both Russia and Belarus that Belarus moves towards Europe.
And why should that appeal to Moscow?
Because, you know, I think that Moscow is also changing. And I want...
You've had that direct from Mr. Putin, have you?
No. I had it from reading the analysts.
Well, there's a couple of different things going on there. I mean, look seriously at Mr. Putin. Look at the way he still, albeit in the Prime Minister's office, is perhaps the most important politician in Russia today. Do you really think Russia's notion of what's in its national interest has changed?
I saw what was leaked first and then became official, this Lavrov paper on the foreign policy of Russia, the future foreign policy. And the emphasis there is economy. And it's nothing wrong with that. It's very legitimate, but they will not they will not reach their goals in Belarus unless Belarus is reformed. Under Lukashenko, it's impossible. He has demonstrated that he's against reforms. He is solely for the preservation of his own power. So I think the reforms in Belarus and European reforms in Belarus, normalization of the situation in Belarus, will be in Russia's best interest. So that's why I think that Russia will accept this notion, if they think seriously. If they stop thinking in the imperialistic past or the Soviet past patterns, you know. Because I think it will be, if Belarus becomes European or will be moving towards Europe, it will save Russia a lot of headache of thinking of how to restore and what to do with the past of the Soviet Union and what to do with the people who still really want to go back to the Soviet times.
Well, you know, yes, and when I hear you talk, I can't help in my mind's eye having a vision of the farmers of Belarus or the factory workers listening to you, an intellectual, a man who has good contacts, political contacts, human rights contacts in the UK, the United States, all across Western Europe, and they're going to see you as somebody who doesn't represent them. They, after all, are Slavs. They have a long, loyal relationship with Moscow and with Russia. And frankly, again, you don't like opinion polls, but if you look at the opinion polls, a slight majority, if forced to make a choice, would choose to join Russia rather than join the European Union. You're out of step with a lot of your own people.
It depends on how you put this question in the opinion poll. It's 3% who really would agree to Belarus being incorporated into Russia. Have good relations, yes, about 50%. But both with European Union and with Russia. Only on these conditions. People agree to have good relations with Russia.
You see,
but to join Russia as some region, no, 3%.
Yeah, but I come back to the point, are you really in touch with your own people? Are you, as an intellectual, somebody who, frankly, has more friends in the West than you have in Minsk?
Well, I travel extensively the country now. I like to go to the countryside, irrespective of political campaign, and I talk to people all the time when I go there. So I was born in Belarus. I lived all my life in Belarus, in Minsk.
One problem that people may have with you is that you are the strongest of critics of Lukashenko now, But let us not forget that in 1994, 95, 96, you were a loyal servant of the Lukashenko government. You ended up being Deputy Foreign Minister, actually making Lukashenko's case on the world stage. You've made a massive transformation. Some people might wonder about it.
It was not a transformation. I was not in Lukashenko's team, on Lukashenko's team. I was really serving the government. And it was the most
Lukashenko's
encouraging.
government, and we all know in Belarus that means...
Well, that's why I told you about 96, which was watershed. And I resigned in protest against this referendum and against the policy of Lukashenko. So it was the step I was, that really I didn't know what I would do.